Aikwe, Nagnamalita, and this is my channel, The Midnight Librarian. And today I will be talking about my June book haul. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 books in June. I read 12 books in June. 6 of them I already owned. 2 of these books I've already, actually 2, 3, 4, 5 of these books I've read or have already read. I don't know. That June was my birthday month. You know what? I'm I'm not gonna count 2 of those. So I think we're good. I don't know. I'm just making this up as I go along. Yeah, let's just get into my June book haul. So I have, was it 12 books? 12 books. So June was my birthday month. June 5th in particular was my birthday. And for my own little birthday treat, I ended up purchasing 3 books. One was actually from PangoBooks, which is a online thrift store for used books. So I thought that was pretty manageable in all honesty, but that is I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. This is one woman's obsessive search for the Golden State Killer, with introduction by Gillian Flynn and then afterward by Patton Oswalt. So I have listened to this one before. I thought it was really intense and awesome, as much as true crime can be, and actually ended up finishing it right before the person who was arrested to be the Golden State Killer went to trial. So that was very interesting. I've been wanting a physical copy of this book and finally just decided to get it. So if you don't know, Michelle McNamara was a I don't know if she was a journalist, writer of some sort, but basically she was a at-home sleuth when it came to the Golden State Killer, which was, I believe, the name she coined for the Night Stalker, and there was something else. No, she's a true crime journalist. But basically there was a 10 sadistic murders in Northern California. Moving south in 1986, he disappeared, eluded capture by police forces and some of the best detectives in the area. 3 decades later, Michelle McNamara, a true crime journalist who created a popular website, True Crime Diary, was determined to find the violent psychopath she called the Golden State Killer. So yeah, it's really in depth and has victim interviews, because I believe he also raped people. Very, very gruesome. The HBO docuseries was also very intense and heartbreaking because this book wasn't done in time. So Michelle McNamara died before this book could get published, and her assistants ended up finishing the book for her. And the docuseries is Patton Oswalt, who was her husband, talks about more in the HBO series how they ended up losing her and the effects that has had. So yeah, very heartbreaking. I bawled multiple times. So I also got Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Muro. I hadn't heard anything about this before. I still have only started seeing people on BookTube start getting this. But from what I understand, it's a historical fantasy based in England, 1882, in Victorian London. 2 children with mysterious powers are hunted by a figure of darkness, a man made of smoke. 16-year-old Charlie Ovid, despite brutal childhood in Mississippi, doesn't have a scar on him. His body heals itself whether he wants it to or not. Marlowe, a foundling from a railway freight car, shines with a strange bluish light. He can melt or mend flesh. When a jaded female detective is recruited to escort them to safety, all 3 begin a journey into the nature of difference and belonging and the shadowy edges of the monstrous. So I just happened to see this at my local bookstore and thought it looked interesting. The same with this one, which is Where Light and Darkness Lies, the Story of Lighthouses by Veronica Della. This cover is just absolutely stunning, and I believe suspended between sky and sea and sky, battered by the waves and the wind, lighthouses mark the battle lines between the elements. They guard the boundaries between the solid human world and the primordial chaos of the waters, between stability and instability, between the known and the unknown. As such, they have strange universal appeal, as they feel that few other man-made structures possess. Engineered to draw the gaze of sailors, lighthouses have likewise long attracted the attention of soldiers and saints, artists and poets, novelists and filmmakers, colonizers and migrants, and today more than ever, heritage tourists and developers. Their evocative locations, isolation, and resilience have turned these structures into complex metaphors, magnets for stories. This book explores the rich story of the lighthouse in the human imagination. So yeah, this sounds really fun and really cool. I know that lighthouses are something that both my partner and I have been interested in. We just haven't seen a whole lot of them because travel due to pandemic and just finances. So I thought this would be just a really fun read. Okay, a couple of these I have talked about before, particularly in my June wrap-up. The first being Dead Collections by Isaac Fellman. This is a urban fantasy following Saul, who is a trans man who is an archivist in San Francisco. He also suffers from vampirism, which in this world is actually a cure for deadly illnesses and sicknesses. So Saul is out as trans, but he is not out as a vampire. He's still navigating that, mostly because he's still navigating transphobia within his workplace. When Elsie shows up to donate some of her late wife's stuff to the archive, Saul is intrigued because Elsie's late wife was actually a semi-famous writer for a fairly known TV series, and they kind of Elsie and Saul kind of hit it off after they realized that they were part of the same fandom when they were teens. And so Saul helps Elsie navigate the grief and loss of her late wife, as well as navigating gender identity, as he also tries to figure out how to realizing that he's in love with Elsie. So this is a very much slice of life deal. I really enjoyed it. I have more thoughts in my June wrap-up if you want to check it out. But yeah, I thought this was a anticipated read that I had in part 1 of my anticipated reads for this year. I am figuring out how I like the cover, and Isaac Fellman is trans, and if you ever want to read the audiobook, I highly suggest it. Danny Martinek ends up narrating it, and I think they did a great job. Danny Martinek is a non-binary actor, and like I said, I think they did a great job of it. So, and I also have The Woman in the Library by Sulari Gentile. This is 4 people meet in the Boston Library. They're all strangers. They all happen to be sitting at the same table. One of them in which is a writer, and she's basically just kind of observing the folks around her, and they kind of just enter into companionable silence until it's interrupted by a woman's terrified scream. This ultimately brings the 4 of them together, and friendships are struck, but the mystery of the woman's scream is like something that they all share and ultimately want to figure out. Turns out one of them's a murderer. Next, I have Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. This, we are following 3 different perspectives. The first is Tova, who is an elderly woman who is working as a cleaning lady to an aquarium in a small town in Washington, just off the Puget Sound, that works nights, and she is slowly becoming friends with the giant Pacific octopus they have on display, named Marcellus. We also getting Marcellus's point of view, as he, even though despite he was rescued and put on display by the aquarium, he finds it as the prison sentence, and it's constantly figuring out how he can escape his enclosure, whether it's to go next door to get some treats from other exhibits or to escape the aquarium as a whole. But he is finding he is becoming friends with Tova and ultimately wanting to help her out in figuring things out that she has yet to realize. I don't particularly like the cover, but ultimately I really enjoyed the content. So those 3 I've already read, and I have more of my thoughts in my June wrap-up if you want to check that out. I'll have it listed above as well as down below. Next we have Tide by Kirsten White. This one, I believe, is a high-stakes, hide-and-seek competition that turned deadly in a supernatural thriller. in a theme park. This was the June Literally Dead book club pick hosted by Kayla from Books and Lala. I was not able to get to this, but I'm hoping to get to it in July for Summerween. I don't know if it counts for any of their prompts, but I'm doing it anyway. So I actually might end up reading this beforehand because I thought that I was going camping the week that Summerween was happening, but apparently I'm just getting back from camping when that happens. So we'll see. I also have in the same theme Hide and Seeker by Daka Herman. This, I believe, is it a middle grade? Justin knows that something is wrong with his best friend. Z went missing for a year, and when he came back, he was different. Nobody knows what happened to him. At Z's welcome home party, Justin and the neighborhood crew play hide and seek, but it goes wrong. Very wrong. One by one, everyone who plays the game disappears, pulled into a world of nightmares come to life. Justin and his friends realize the horrible place is where Z had been trapped. All they can do is now hide from the seeker. That sounds terrifying. So, and it's been on my radar for a while, and I think it was Bear from Et Tu Brody that originally brought it to my attention. So I'm interested to get to this at some point. I mean, I'm interested to get to all of these at some point, but I then have Trailed, A Woman's Quest to Solve the Shenandoah Murders by Catherine Miles. I read this audibly. This was an advanced listener's copy available to me through Libro FM, and I listened to this back in May, I believe, or was it April? End of April, early May, because I think I went down. I have a vlog about it, so I'll link that. But basically, they must have been followed. That's the thought I returned to after all these years. In May 1996, two skilled backcountry leaders, Lolly Winans and Julie Williams, entered Virginia's Shenandoah National Park for a week-long backcountry camping trip. The free-spirited and remarkable young couple had met and fallen in love in the previous summer while working at a world-renowned outdoor program for women. During their final days in the park, they descended the narrow remnants of a trail and pitched their tent in a hidden spot. After the pair didn't return home as planned, park rangers found a scene of horror at their campsite. Their tent slashed open, their beloved dog missing, and both women dead in their sleeping bags. The unsolved murders of Winans and Williams continue to haunt all who had encountered them or know their story. When award-winning journalist and outdoor expert Catherine Miles begins looking into the case, she discovers conflicting evidence, mismatched timelines, and details that just don't add up. So, yeah, like I said, I've already read this before. I wanted a physical copy, much like I'll Be Gone in the Dark. So yeah, check out the blog if you want to hear. I believe I have more of my thoughts about it in there if you want to know about them. This one I think I got last month, but I forgot to haul it, so I'm going to haul it here this month, and that is Dream Drawings, Poems, Configurations of a Timeless Kind by N. Scott Momaday. This was so kindly sent to me by Harper Perennial, so thank you so much to them. But basically it's N. Scott Momaday's new poetry collection, which I read N. Scott Momaday last year and enjoyed, and feel like I could easily do so with this one. This one is a singular voice in American letters. Momaday's love of language and storytelling are on full display in this brilliant collection comprising 100 sketches or dream drawings, furnishings of the mind, as he calls them, influenced by his Native American heritage and its oral storytelling traditions. Here are poems about nature, warriors, hunters, and bears, as well as poems that explore themes of loss, love, time, and memory. So, yeah, thank you so much. Oh, God. Okay, and the last two I have, they are both pre-orders, and the first one is Not Good for Maidens by Tori Bavolino. Beneath the street of York, the Goblin Market calls for the wicked women, the family of witches that tends to its victims. For generations, they have defended the old cobblestone streets with their magic. Knowing the dangers, they never entered the market until May Wicket fell for a goblin girl, accepted her invitation, and became inextricably tied to the world her family tried to protect her from. The market learned her name, and even when she and her sister left York for Boston to escape it, the goblins remembered. 18 years later, Lou, May's niece, knows nothing of her magical lineage or the twisted streets, sweet fruits, and incredible jewels of the goblin market, but just like her aunt, the market calls to her, an echo of a curse that won't release its hold on her family. And when her youngest aunt, Neela, is kidnapped by goblins, Lou discovers just how real and dangerous the market is. So I'm very interested. I've heard others are very interested in this as well. So, and finally, this is the another prequel, the second book. I forget what the series is called. I think it's just called This Poison Heart, but this is the second one, This Wicked Fate, by Kayla Barron. So this Poison Heart follows Breezy's who has like nature magic and is living in Boston with her two moms. I guess it's two adopted mothers, as they struggle to figure out to raise rent as well as decrease business in their flower shop. But then one day Breezy's gets a letter basically explaining that her birth family left her in a state in upper New York, so they go there to investigate and also think that this may be a nice break away from Boston, as well as a potential opportunity to gain anew, to be able, or to start anew and see what's up. So this estate is pretty huge. There's a garden, there's also an apothecary, and Breezy starts to learn about her birth family, and that this magic that she finds hard to control was actually just an inherited gift in her lineage. There's a lot of Greek mythology, and I don't know, I love the magic system in it. The ending of the first one I wasn't too sure about, but I am interested enough in the characters to want to figure out what's else going on. So this is the second and I believe final one, but I'm not entirely sure on that. So yeah, so those are the books I got in June. If you are interested in reading any of them, or if you have read any of them, please let me know in the comments down below. Yeah, and if you made it this far, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you have yet to do so already, and let's leave an emoji. Let's do some kind of nature emoji. Is there a leaf or a plant? Let's do that. Yeah, otherwise I hope that you are in the mental mindset to enjoy your reading, and I will see you in another video very soon. Cheers.